Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. May all the peace and blessings of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on all of us. Now today, as you can see, I want us to dive and navigate through the process of homeostasis. We learned the definition of the homeostasis, types of homeostasis, examples of factors that fluctuate in the body tissues and needs to be restored back to bring about the process of homeostasis, principles of homeostasis, types of feedback mechanisms, and like that, and we end our lesson in that. Before we start narrowing down to how the body, the functioning of the kidney and the functioning of the skin as well that of the liver are adapted to homeostasis. But now this is a general view that we will be using when we will be narrowing down to each and individual organs. Now, as you can see, class, today we have the homeostasis. Now we need to understand what a homeostasis is. Homeostasis, it is the process of maintaining constant internal environment of an organism. And we know that an organism basically has two types of environment. That is the external environment as well the internal environment. The external environment is the immediate surrounding of the organism. The immediate surrounding of the organism is what we refer to as the external environment. And we say basically the external environment consists of both biotic and abiotic factors. Now let's look at the internal environment of an organism. An internal environment of an organism basically means the immediate surrounding of the body cells, and therefore we say it comprises of the tissue fluid. And we know that the immediate surrounding of a body cell is the tissue fluid. And the tissue fluid is where the material exchange takes place into the cell, where oxygen and nutrients move out of the tissue fluid into the cell, whereas waste products such as carbon dioxide and other waste products from the cell gets out of the cell into the tissue fluid. Now, examples of factors that fluctuate in the body tissue and needs to be restored, and at times we say they bring about the process of homeostasis are, just an example, we have the temperature, we have the ionic concentration, we have the pH, we also have the osmotic pressure. Now, these factors must be kept at equilibrium in order for the cells to function properly. Now, for instance, a factor like temperature, when the temperature goes beyond normal, the body has some corrective mechanisms to restore that deviation from the normal, further deviation from the normal to restore back to the body. And we are going to see that the body responds to this through sweating, the angle of the hair follicle lying flat on the skin. We also have that the blood vessels passing near the skin surface also expanding, or rather doing something called the vasodilation. Now we are going to discuss further details when we go to the skin and thermoregulation. But for now, just to know that these factors, the temperature, ionic concentration, osmotic pressure, and pH, they must be kept at equilibrium in order for the cells to function properly. Now, we have principles of homeostasis. Now, the principles of homeostasis says that some body systems work in a coordinated way to bring about the homeostasis. The system like the circulatory system, the system that transports blood, and this blood contains nutrients such as oxygen and nutrients such as amino acids, glucose, and that like that. As well, it contains dissolved oxygen gas. But again, we also have the endocrine system. The endocrine system basically is the hormonal system. We also have the nervous system that controls the body functioning. And now we say that these three systems, they work in a coordinated fashion to bring about the homeostasis. Now that we just learned about the circulatory system, we are going to see the endocrine system and the nervous system at Form 4 level, the topic reception, response, and coordination, where now we can relate the three. But now that you just know this one, we can't know how they are related. But now just to know that some body systems work in a coordinated fashion to bring about the homeostatic process. Now we have various types, two types of feedback, that is the negative feedback and the positive feedback. Now as I just drew this diagram, it tells us more about the feedback and the positive feedback and the negative feedback. Now, for instance, sometimes the learners are confused what the positive feedback and what the negative feedback means. Now today, from this lesson, I hope all of you will be getting the clarity based on what the positive feedback is and what a negative feedback is. Now class, what you say that the negative feedback is a corrective action that tries to restore the deviation from the normal. For instance, we can see that this is the normal set point for a certain factor. For instance, let's say a factor like temperature. This is the normal factor of the normal set point for a factor like temperature. Now we can see that there is a deviation from the normal, which is excess. For instance, let's say higher temperature. Now, the body now responds to this by carrying out a corrective mechanism known as the negative feedback. Now, what is a negative feedback? It's a corrective action that tries to restore. Now we can see that this was an excess, right? Now the negative feedback is a corrective mechanism. It is taking us back to the normal set point. Again, we have positive feedback. It is a change outside the normal set point. Now this is a positive feedback, right? It is a change outside the normal set point. Exactly. It's a change outside the normal set point. We can see that the normal set point is here and the positive feedback is here again. Now, the change outside the normal set point, which at times leads to further change from the normal. And we can see that it is the temperature, for example, if the factor was temperature, it is increasing in excess. On the other hand, we have this one as the positive feedback and this one as the positive feedback as well. Now at times, it does not mean that the factors will always be going up. We have at times when we have lower temperature. The temperature may be very low, below the normal. Now at that time, we call it deficiency. And when the temperature is too high, we say it is the excess. As an example of factor we are using. Now, when the temperatures are below normal, that is a deficiency. Now, the body carries out some corrective mechanism. For example, when the temperatures are too low, the sweat glands become inactive. The blood vessels passing near the skin surface vasoconstrict. We also have the erector pili muscles contracting. And once the erector pili muscles contract, what it does, it makes the angle of the hair follicle to stand erect. And once the angle of the hair follicle stands erect, it traps a layer of air. And that layer of air acts as an insulation, meaning that the body will not be losing heat. And if at all it has to lose, it will lose minimal heat. And therefore, that is another corrective mechanism. Now, that scenario is called a negative feedback. Now, let's say the deficiency or the temperature increases further deficiency, and such one we call positive feedback. Now we will be looking at the functions of each, the skin and thermoregulation, the erector pili muscles, blood vessels, and how they are regulated by this. And in our next lesson, we may be looking at the liver and things of the sort, and we will be discussing more. Now, wish you all the best. Have a prosperous day ahead. Always, let's work together. Let's promote the channel. It is an education initiative meant to better the grades of the learners. Wish you all the best.